Nameco over here, Dustin right here. Nice finger point. This is the outfield tiers and rankings.
The one compliment I get from it.
Before we get into it though, we're doing a Kickstarter campaign for a fantasy football app that we're trying to put together. We're trying to raise money to get all the stuff up there and get some of the design work done. So please check it out. Click on the link on our homepage or go to Kickstarter and search Fantasy Football University.
He's a little too nice. Please, anything, you know, we've answered over 20,000 forum questions. If we do these videos, we really don't make money. So anything that you guys can do to help us launch this app, we would love. Probably not nearly as much as they think. Well, they probably think we make nothing, but you know, we're two schmucks. And on that note, Tier 1.
Tier 1.
Why you should listen to these two schmucks. This one's pretty easy. Mike Trout, first overall outfielder, had a beast year. You know what you're going to get. Great average, steals, home runs, RBIs, runs. That's what you like to call a 5 category kind of guy.
It's pretty solid.
He's awesome.
Tier 2, still a lot of talent. You know, obviously with McCutchen at the beginning, Adam Jones at the end, you're just hoping they have another really stellar year like they did last year. And with BRAUN and Gonzalez, we know what they're capable of. If they can stay healthy, they'll certainly be a good return for the investment for where you draft them.
I think Braun's going to have a good year. All right, Tier 3, 2 young guys. We've seen in the forums a lot. Oh, I'm so excited. I got Harper and Puig in the first 2 rounds. And yeah, they're exciting players, so I totally understand why you would be excited. We're not so excited. It's a little bit scary. I mean, that's a big risk. Young guys to go in that early, especially a guy like Harper who hasn't had first round year ever, is a little bit scary to invest that much in and hope that this is the year he totally blows up. You're paying for what you hope he does compared to what he's done in the past. I mean, Harper was a little bit banged up last year. Puig, on the other hand, was amazing across the board, but he only had 400 at-bats with like 20 bombs, 11 bags. I don't think you can say in 600 bats he's going to do a third better than that as well. So just be careful of these 2 young guys. Maybe 1.
They are exciting. Tier 4, Senso Chu. In my mind, one of the most kind of boring picks that you could have in the early middle rounds
of the fantasy baseball world.
Yeah, right. He never ends up on my team, but I always end up looking at his numbers and be like, oh, I wish I had him on my team.
I draft him all the time.
But 2020 again last year, but you know the ceiling isn't super high, but the floor isn't low at all. And then Will Myers is one of the best young players in baseball that hardly anyone talks about. I mean, he does get a little bit of hype, but not to the same level as some of these other guys. And he has potential being right up there with them. You know, I like to think that he's going to take his game very much to the next level this year.
Tier 5, you got the Brent Nameco of fantasy baseball, and that's Matt Kemp, a guy you got big hopes for. Falls flat on his face. Just the last 2 years. I do like him if you can get him at the right price, but his ADP is around 40, which I think is definitely too high. He's already got an ankle injury, but if he does fall, remember in 2011, it's not that long ago, he was a 40-40 guy. But the guy we really love in this tier that we want to talk about is Calhoun. Now, this is a guy that's going really much later in drafts than we feel he should. You know, he's going to be the everyday player out there with the Angels at about 200 at-bats. He had 8 home runs. He had batted about 280. A lot of upside for this youngster, only 26 years old. Really like him in that lineup. Definitely a guy to target in drafts.
Tier 6, talk about the 2 Hamiltons. Billy Hamilton's the first one. This guy's steals totals in the minors were video game-ish. I mean, it was insane how...
Dustin thought it was a typo.
It was. I really did think it was a typo. I think he had 155 steals last year in the minors. So if he gets a full season of bats, he will lead the league in steals. But don't overpay for one category because there's a chance he hits 0 home runs. But still someone to take a look at. And then Josh Hamilton, I mean, at this point, he's actually probably getting drafted where he should maybe at this point. There's still a little bit of upside, but I think everyone's probably been burned by him 1 year.
And by the way, we're taping these in late February. I just saw a report. I think he's on crutches right now. Just came out today. So just FYI, if we say, oh, X, Y, or Z happened to him. Just know that report just came out.
He probably will be hurt all year.
All right, Tier 7. Gotta talk about Dom Brown here. If you had him in May and June and his 18 home runs he hit over that time frame, you absolutely loved him. If you remember probably the hype even if you didn't own him, but just buyer beware with this. So May, June, 18 home runs and about 215 at-bats. From June on to July, August, September, and about 200 at-bats, he hit a grand total of 6 home runs. Be a little careful, this guy. I don't think he's like a lock 40 home run guy like some people think. It's a little nuts.
Tier 8, I want to talk about the first guy in this tier, and that's Michael Brantley. Now here's a guy that isn't going to blow you away with any of his stats, but he is solid across the board, and at 26 you still like to think there's a chance of him taking his home run totals to the next level. And then Adam Eaton, another one of those youngsters that gets kind of overshadowed by some of the other big name young players in the game, but this guy had very comparable numbers to, say, a Mike Trout in the minors, so he can do it. Let's see if he can. He's proven he can do it in the minors, and I think he could definitely do it in the majors as well.
All right, Tier 9, just talking about one guy, and that's Curtis Granderson. The reason I want to talk about him, I truly feel that his numbers were a big product of Yankee Stadium. So due to the fact that he's moving to the Mets, I think you have significantly bumped his numbers down, especially home run totals that it's been kind of nuts the last 2 seasons. So just keep that in mind when you're drafting Curtis Granderson.
Next tier, Chris Davis is a guy I wanted to talk about. Very solid numbers and limited at-bats last year. 11 home runs and 136 at-bats. That's got to get your attention. And I got to talk about my boy Victorinno, the tank. This guy hits the ball just as hard as pretty much anyone in the game.
Bashing the ball like SORIANO of old. I worked it in!
Yeah, well done. He's fun to watch, and he does still have a lot of upside. He's only 24.
Side note, do you know where that phrase comes from? Where we're getting old, where there's a bunch of kids, I have no idea.
We're not that old yet, I hope. Maybe some people.
Let's see. All right, Tier 11, 2 young guys, talking about Reddick and Pollock for the Oakland A's and Arizona respectively. Both these guys are 26. Like about them is that they're young. They're both going to give you power and some bags that you can get later in your draft. So again, 2 names to kind of highlight as you're towards the end looking to fill out that 4th, 5th outfielder spot.
And in our last tier, Coco Crisp is the guy I wanted to talk about. Probably the guy that you can get latest in the draft as far as all of the 2020 guys from the year before. But again, at 34, there's not a huge upside. You're just hoping that he does close to what he did last year. And then Peter Borges is the guy that I want to talk about. New home with St. Louis. Seems like he's been around for forever. Only 26 years old. So there's still potential for him to go back to his base stealing ways and be a decent steal for you late in the draft.
So that's it. Again, we have all of our other tiers and rankings, your cheat sheets online as well. But Kickstarter, Fantasy Football University. Go to our homepage. Click on the link as well. Please. Bottom of my heart. I'd really appreciate it. And you keep messing up the pen flips. Now they're not going to do anything.
It's been bad. Sorry.
You blew it.